People should be conscious that they can change a corrupt system. Good evening and welcome. This is Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today is the health crisis, the corrupt health crisis in Sri Lanka. Joining us this evening on the show to speak about all this and more, we've invited 5 guests to our studios. Joining us this evening are Professor Indi Karunatilaka, Secretary General, Asia Pacific Academic Consortium for Public Health; Dr. Ajit Amarasinghe, Consultant Pediatrician; Dr. Chamal Sanjeeva, Chairman, Professional Forum of Physicians on Medical and Civil Rights; Dr. Ananda Vijayavikrama, President-elect, Sri Lanka Medical Association, as well as Dr. Thinuwan Wickramasinghe, General Committee Member of the Government Medical Officers Association. You too can join in as far as the conversation is concerned. You can send your WhatsApp messages to 076 656 5353. The number once again, 076 656 5353. To pose questions from our panelists this evening. On to my immediate left is Nilesh Eliathambi, who is the Consultant English News Director at Newsfirst. So let's get the ball rolling with Professor Indi Karunatilaka, Secretary General of the Asia Pacific Academic Consortium for Public Health. Your time starts now.
Thank you, Shamir. So yes, and we are discussing a very important topic and a very timely one as well. So I would say that health system is in crisis at the moment, and it's due to many reasons. And if you see the most immediate or most visible areas that will be most visible and would be mostly affecting the people. One is the availability of medicinal drugs. Other one is the availability of health professionals, doctors, nurses and the health professionals. If you take those two areas, what patients or the citizens of the country see is there are issues. They may not understand the deeper issues, but definitely they can see there are issues related to medicinal drugs availability, prices. At the same time, there are issues related to the availability of health professions, and a lot of health professionals and doctors are migrating. So outwardly also you can see there are serious issues. And if you look deep down, the crisis is actually very deep rooted. And probably the reasons that has led to this crisis are the same reasons that has led to the crisis in the country. Basically, the corruption and nepotism, cronyism, and similarly mismanagement. The same areas. So when you really study the current health system problem, you can see all these issues. You can see corruption, you can see lack of efficiency, you can see mismanagement, you can see favoritism, you can even say nepotism. So all these areas can be identified. And other thing that we can identify is it happens at all levels. So you cannot pinpoint this to one area, one section, or even one person. It happens at all levels, top to bottom, at all situations. So there is a crisis, and if you go into a little bit deeper, especially in the main 2 areas that I have mentioned. Now if you take the medicinal drugs, again the reasons for crisis is multifactorial. There are many reasons. Human resource problem, again the reasons are multifactorial. But this problem point out to rather serious indication that the system has failed. Why I am telling system has failed is generally in health system or any system there are multiple checks and balances to make sure that even if something goes wrong, still there are other places or other checks and balances so that the damage is minimized. For example, if you take say the importation of drugs, there are several steps that has to be followed. So even if one step fails, still there are checks and balances. So when there are problems in these checks and balances, or when these checks and balances are removed for manipulation or due to ulterior motives, that is where the system collapses. So that is what we see. That is what we see in the drug issue or the medicinal drug issue.
Right.
And if you take the human resources, a huge issue, again multifactorial, but at the moment what we see is large number of health professionals, doctors and others are leaving the country. I would say it's more than just leaving the country, it's basically the situation has forced them to leave. So that has also put the health system into crisis. So I think we need to focus in all these areas to identify the current situation, the current crisis in detail.
Thank you very much, Professor Indi Karunatilaka, Secretary General of the Asia Pacific Academic Consortium for Public Health. I now move my attention towards Dr. Ajit Amarasinghe, Consultant Pediatrician. The time starts now.
Thank you. I think when we begin to discuss about the healthcare system or the crisis of it, first we must analyze where we were and where we are and where we will be heading. Now in the world, I don't think this is well known to the general public. Sri Lankan healthcare system is considered as one of the most cost-effective healthcare systems in the world. That we should not forget. Our per capita healthcare expenditure is about $400 per year. So when you compare it with other developed countries, now for example UK, the per capita healthcare expenditure is about $4,000 to $5,000, 10 times ours, and in US it's 9,000. Now if you take our healthcare indices, these indices are almost similar to developed countries. So we must first look at our current healthcare system, and it is this excellent healthcare system which has faced a crisis situation. I don't think this crisis is purely due to the economic crisis of the country. Now, if you take the healthcare expenditure, the healthcare budget of 2023, it is almost double of 2021 in rupee terms. It's something like in 2021 it was 223 billion rupees. Now it is 443 billion. So it's almost double. Now, if you take even the depreciation of dollar, the money spent on health has not been reduced. So I don't know how a shortage of drugs, a shortage of other equipment in this system has arisen. There's no reason. And also, in addition to the crisis of not having enough devices, not having enough equipment, not having enough medicine in the system, there's a problem with regard to the quality of medicines that are being distributed, especially in government hospitals and also in private sector. Now, in addition to that, as Professor Indika explained, there's a crisis in healthcare manpower, human resource crisis, but that particular crisis is not confined to the healthcare system. So now, with a minimum amount of money, with an excellent healthcare system, we have achieved certain indices in the world, which are comparable to other developed countries. Now it is this particular healthcare system which has been put to strain, which has been brought into disrepute during a very short period of time. I think that is what we have to discuss, how it happened and who are responsible for this.
Who is responsible?
If I say there has been a crisis which happened during the past 2 years, people who are in charge of this healthcare system during the past 2-3 years.
So are you trying to say the Minister of Health, who is now the Minister of Environment, is the one who is responsible for the current crisis?
Him and also the people who are responsible. I mean, there's a team who are leading this healthcare system.
So
they are responsible.
Oh, okay.
They are responsible. He's not a single person. He is one, and there is a team. There is a team. So that team is also responsible for this.
So when you say team, what do you mean by that?
The healthcare hierarchy, people who are at the top of the administration of health system, they are responsible.
So who do you point the finger at, Dr. Ajit?
I can't point the finger at one person. Minister has been removed, right, for whatever reason. And there was a protest by the general public, by the doctors, various civil organizations during past 6 months about certain malpractices in the healthcare system.
Right.
That is very well known.
So basically, Alibaba and the 40 thieves.
Can call so.
So if there are 40 people.
Maybe more.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ajit Amar Singh, consultant pediatrician. I now move my attention towards Dr. Chamal Sanjeeva, chairman of the Professional Forum of Physicians on Medical and Civil Rights.
Yeah. Good evening. And so I would like to start this. When we were born just three to 4 decades ago, we described Sri Lanka as a that means the third world developing country. From the last 4 decades period, ultimately we end up as a defaulted state, or maybe the question about the failed country. So this and now we are in the twin crisis situation. One aspect, there's a political crisis, and then for the economic crisis going on. So with this, the combination of these two, one is the political crisis and economic crisis, then ultimately it touched to the ground level people, and that is why we have to talk about the health and education system failed. So I think this is the maximum level that the people is feeling now, how the last 40 years or 45 years period, as Dr. Ajit mentioned, the total failing of the total system happened. And now when it touched to the health of the people's living and for in their food and their drugs and the day-to-day activities, and also when they face that the communicable disease and non-communicable disease state and it's rising, and when we are falling as Dr. Ajit mentioned, we had the great respect from the world regarding we are achieving the highest level of the health indices for the last 30 to 40 years period, despite of the low allocation from the GDP. But now, recently the Auditor General issued the report to the Parliament. After 30 to 40 years time, we are now had the decrease, the downgrade state of our health. Now our maternity mortality rate is rising, the under 5 children's death rate is rising, and also the HIV/AIDS, doing the screening is failing, the tobacco usage is rising, and also the beds per children, or the beds for the pregnant mothers. Also we had the 750 patients per one bed for the pediatric units, and around 800 pregnant mothers per one bed. That is when we come for the maternal reviews. So this is clearly indicate that for the last 30 to 40 years period, as a system, this administration and management failure happened, and then it come to this economic crisis level.
Yeah, Dr. Chamal, very quickly, now the recent controversy surrounding the human immunoglobulin matter that has sparked a lot of controversy. Now the health minister has changed. Now there is a new health minister.
Yeah.
Is that something that the health sector is satisfied with?
No, because as I mentioned very clearly, this the crisis of the health system is not we can't finger point to one person. As a whole, from the politician, the advocacy to bureaucracy level, all the administrative management level, as a totally gathered, they should responsible for this health system failure. I can show you the one example, as you mentioned about the recent immunoglobulin issue. This the letter issued from the Secretary of Health, Secretary of Health, signed by Mr. Janakasri Chandragupta regarding the immunoglobulin tender process. And it clearly, we know that the Ministry of Health, Medical Supply Division, and so the NMRA, State Pharmaceutical Corporation, there are nearly 3 to 4 government and semi-government institutions who are responsible for the health sector and the people's well-being. So this letter very clearly mentioned that he is informing about this tender process to all mentioned authorities there. And the CEO of the NMRA mentioned that regarding this company, since 2013, this company tried to get the general manufacturing license to Sri Lanka. So that means that 10 years time, he is not a qualified supplier to our Ministry of Health.
Then why did the Secretary to the Minister of Health issue this letter?
Yeah, that's right. So this is not the first instance. As I mentioned previously, once, just 2 to 3 months back, we highlighted about the islands issue and how he violated all the financial regulation and audited. He has signed in this letter with the letterhead of the company who tried to get the islands with the highest price. He very clearly mentioned, please, to the Department Procurement Committee, DPC, please consider this bidder's request as he's a past supplier. So this, I think we don't need to discuss.
So it's not only the Minister of Health who has to be changed, even the Secretary to the Minister of Health has to be changed.
Secretary of Health and all the personnel involved in for this issue for last 20 to 30 years, since Minister H.M. Fauci to the now President Ramesh Patirana. Even the ministers change. The top level bureaucracy officers are not changed for last 34 years.
Right.
So
thank you very much, Dr.
This is a network.
Yeah. This is a network.
It's a network we have to address.
Right.
That is why this is a mafia, as you mentioned earlier.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sawan Sanjeeva, Chairman of the Professional Forum of Physicians on Medical and Civil Rights. I now move my attention towards Dr. Anand Vijayvikram, President-elect of the Sri Lanka Medical Association. Dr. Vijayvikram, alarming stories that are coming out from the health sector in the country. What's going on?
Yeah, I think if you say health system is in crisis, probably it's a too simplified statement. It is in deep crisis. It's in serious crisis, and it had never been in a crisis like this, not to this extent. Of course, there had been various instances where there were crises in the health sector. We know that, but not to this extent. This has never happened. This is unprecedented. What is happening in the health sector over the last 1.5 to 2 years, this is unprecedented. So this has led to a very serious situation in the health system, which Dr. Ajit and others explained. We were having a very good system, with a low cost model, which was which was taken as an example to show as a showcase to other countries. But now this is in a serious crisis, and at times I wonder whether it is a sort of a deliberate measure to disrupt or destroy this health system. Because looking at what has been happening, we have seen over the last 1.5 years. We have now, at the beginning of last year, the problem we had was a shortage of drugs due to lack of dollars, lack of foreign currency. But now, then it expanded with other problems. The doctors and others start moving to other countries. Then, in addition to lack of drugs, we started getting low quality drugs, or drugs where the quality is not assessed. And then the people are getting various reactions, deaths have been reported. So this sort of crisis have been we have never seen. I have been working in the health sector for more than 30 years as a doctor, and we have never experienced this much of crisis. I think it is also one of the biggest issue is this lack of checks and balances, which were there to safeguard the system. These are not being implemented. So it is a very serious situation, and unless this is corrected immediately, we are going to have a very serious situation in the near future.
So when you said, Dr. Anand, that this seems to be something that is happening deliberately, if you even look at the statement that was made by the former Minister of Health, Kelly Ramukwal, in Parliament, saying there is a reason that there are funeral parlours outside hospitals, this in fact raises an eyebrow.
Yeah, of course, yes. I mean, how can a person in charge of the health sector be such insensitive to the problems? So I can't understand how he can make such statements.
Also, Dr. Anand, I just want to pick your brain on this. Now, a few months ago, I recollect, Niresh, we were speaking about this matter very aggressively on Face the Nation with regard to the no confidence motion that was brought against Health Minister Kelly Ramukwella. In Parliament, that no confidence motion was defeated. And if you look at the statement that was made by the SSPP General Secretary, Sagar Kharya, was recently saying that the minister has not been proven guilty of any wrongdoing. Now it seems that the President himself has understood that the Minister of Health, Kelly Ramukwella, is not suitable for this position, and henceforth he has been removed. What do you have to say about this? Ultimately, it seems that the Parliament was right.
Well, I think the votes in Parliament has many reasons and many implications, so I don't want to comment on that and what is happening in the Parliament. We have seen what sort of things happening in the Parliament over the last several years, which we cannot agree. Sometimes we are ashamed to see that is our Parliament. That is to say that is our Parliament. So it has gone to that level at times. But having said that, it doesn't mean everybody in the Parliament is like that. But for this problem, I think it is not only the people who are in charge of these systems are responsible. It's not a single person,
right.
But of course there can be, hopefully there can be changes with the change which happened recently. I mean, we are hopeful.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anand Vijayakumar, President-elect of the Sri Lanka Medical Association. I just want to pose questions to all 5 of you, but I'll wait until the first round is over to do that. So I want to pick Dr. Thenuwan Wickramasinghe, General Committee Member of the Government Medical Officer Association, your brains on what is going on in the country at present. What's happening?
First of all, thank you very much for calling us, the GMI, for this valuable discussion. Starting from the topic today, we are talking about medical mafia. If you look at the definition of mafia, the simple definition says that it is the organized group of criminals, the organized group of people who do crimes. So I would like to say that not only one group, there are several groups that who are doing criminals at the moment, who are being criminals at the moment. As my panel was talking about, I want to tell that there are 2 broad categories: the drug mafia and the human resource mafia. So if you talk about the drug mafia, again we are going to break it down to 3 more categories: the drug shortage, the quality, and the drug cost. All 3 are being mafias now. So recently the former health minister was giving media statements saying that the number of patients that comes to the government institutes has been increased by 40%. So it is not because of any other reason, but because people cannot afford for private medical facilities. That is why they have been diverted to the government sector. And on top of that, as all the doctors presented, if you consider about the health index score of the World Health Index score, we lies at the 47th position now, with a per capita budget of 160 USDs. And US lies at the 69th position with a 10,690 USDs per capita budget. So we are maintaining such a good health system despite all these problems because of the human resource we have and the quality healthcare system we were having. Going back to this immunoglobulin thing, if you go to the NMRA website and see their main vision and their main objective, it says that the increase patient access to quality assured medicinal products, which has been violated by themselves. So Dr. Shamal showed that letter of acceptance from the health secretary. The NMRA people comes and says that they don't know anything about this. But the same letter that has been accepted by the health secretary has been copied to the NMRA. So how can they say that they don't know about this problem? That means they don't go through the letters that they receive.
But yeah. Dr. Thenuwan, the problem is now, because you are representing the GMOA, the problem is, what has the GMOA done about all this? But if you look at it, in other countries, if there is a matter or a corrupt activity that is surrounding a 1 billion rupees scam, the minister will not be just changed, the minister will be arrested. The secretary of the Ministry of Health will be arrested. That is how an investigation will start. At least a suspension has to happen. But in Sri Lanka, nothing of that sort happens. Everyone seems that, guess what? The president has decided that they are going to change heads. It seems like the pack is shuffled, the jokers still remain.
So being a policy-driven organization, we don't believe even the changing of faces will be a solution for this problem. So it is not, we can't pinpoint and say that this person is the person that is responsible for this one. There are, as said by the other panels, a network. Everyone in this hierarchy system is responsible for this one, because they say that the fraud seal has been put and fraud signature has been put. So where is the investigation for fraud documents? So if a drug that is administered through your veins can be imported through these type of channels, and if the thing is not purified, if the thing is contaminated, and if the former health minister comes and says that it contains saline, we are happy if it is saline.
But he has no proof about it being saline. It has not been tested.
It is still not tested, and there is no official report available.
So how is he saying that it's saline?
That is another problem.
Now
how he comes to the media and sells
this is a non-existent company registered in Sidua, an address in Sidua. How do we not know that it's just dirty water from the Danugangoya?
No one knows. But actually, if it is saline, we should be happy. Because if it is human immunoglobulin, it is being derived from the human plasma. There are two processes, separation and purification. If the purification process is not followed up properly, how can we assure that the diseases has not been gone to those patients that has been administered these sort of vials? And then the additional secretary responsible for this one comes to the media and says, even though this stock is withdrawn, we have sufficient immunoglobulins in Sri Lankan health system. Then why they imported this as an emergency purchase?
This is where, Dr. Dhanwan, I feel the role of the GMOA should be more, because you all go and advise President Gotabaya Rajapaksa about fertilizer matters. You all go and protest when there are railway union strikes and trade union action. But when something of this sort happens, where is the GMOA?
Let me tell you.
What are you all doing? Aren't you all supposed to look at the interest of the public that you are serving?
This health ministry problem, health crisis, we were talking in 3 same forums for about last few months. But the president removed the minister on last Monday. So what is the consequence? We have been, as the responsible trade union, we have been exposing all these into the media. And if you can recall, about 3 weeks back, we held a strong protest in front of the health ministry. And there was big chaos in the media and everywhere that we confronted with the police and the roadblocks and all those stuff. This was the eye-opener. Following that, only the people, on the same day we had a discussion with the president. And on the next day we had a discussion with the Honorable Sagala Ratnayaka, where we expressed our views, where we conveyed the message where the health sector is. So if you think that GMO has been silent, that means that
GMO is involved in all the other matters, which is even affecting the kitchen in the country. But look at the problems that are being faced at present. This is fatal.
I understand.
And the people who are depending on the public health system will fear to go to the public health system to get
that is the worst thing that can happen. If the public sector fail to have the faith on the healthcare delivery system, free healthcare system, public healthcare system, that is the worst thing that could happen to a country. If they lost the faith.
It's sad, Nilesh, that we are in this situation and we're discussing about problems after problems in Sri Lanka. The last week was about corruption, this week about health crisis. We've spoken about the health crisis over and over again, and this happens again, and it just sends jitters down my spine just to know that Sri Lanka's health system has almost collapsed. Dr. Chamal, you you are very vocal about what went wrong on this.
Yeah.
Tell us, make the public aware what really happened.
Yeah.
Everyone seems that the minister changing is good enough. We saw the minister Keheri Rambukwella speaking to the media after his appointment as the Minister of Health. When a journalist posed a question to him, why have you been changed? He says, right now the Ministry of Environment has a bigger role to play in the country, and henceforth I think, according to the minister, I think the president has given me this responsibility because he thinks that this is a vast area where someone like me has to be involved and my expertise is required. What is going on?
So he thinks it's a promotion.
It's like promotion, yeah. So now as the Tenuan and all the professionals very clearly describe what has happened because of there's a failure of the bureaucracy, administration and management level, and we are now just few months back the president has tabled new anti-corruption bill, and he mentioned that we are having the most powerful anti-corruption bill in the Southeast Asia. But unfortunately, we have enough anti-corruption system already because now we are talking about this NMRA and the health system issues. But I would like to show this 2021-2022 the Auditor General report about the NMRA. This very clearly mentioned what is going on for the last few years, and it clearly mentioned the name of the officers and thing, and every bid process there's a problematic area. So I think we don't need the more anti-corruption bill or anything to tackle these issues because we have enough audit reports. And as you know that the COP, every day they are talking about the health ministry and they are talking about all the audits report. And this is about the 2015-2018, again about the Presidential Commission report regarding the NMRA. Unfortunately, Dr. Tenuan, this complaint made by Dr. Harit Talutge, that time the secretary is one of the complainer, and this also mentioned about how the NMR and health systems fail happen, right? And the reason the Auditor General report I'll show very clearly it mentioned this report is about the Karyasadaka Vartawa 2022 about the health ministry. It's a 280-page audit report of every aspect of the health sector, from human resource, transport, medicine. Even this mention how the health officers, the administrator and the management officers get bribery and corruptions through the cleaning services of the hospitals, right? And also the tender issues regarding the oxygen supply, insulin, like that, every aspect. So I think that we have enough documented charges against these health officers. But as you mentioned, no one is there to responsible. And this much of they have violating repeatedly all the financial regulations, administrative issues, and even the civil legal issues. But still the secretary, additional secretaries, all the officers are there. And so the one thing is that they believe that there's umbrella protection coming to the politicians, because as I initially I stopped as they said, this is a network, because they know it's a network. No one can expose other one, because we can't finger point to the governing party politicians. So I had experience when we are talking about the health service crisis. Sometimes the opposition party members, they also worried about it. So I had some telephone calls also from them, because as I mentioned, this is a organized white collar robbery, and most of these issues we can't go to the court because these are ultimately approved by the one aspect, either cabinet procurement committee or the ministry level procurement committee, even sometimes the president, right? So the issue is that the ones we expose buying the antibiotic for the 50 million more than the lowest price bidder. So president very clearly mentioned to the Ministry of Finance there should be transparency about this emergency purchase model. So what has happened is the ministry stopped the 50 million procurement process, and they have gone for the 120 million higher price bidder, and they took that procurement very easily. So no one has no audit, no discipline, no audit there. So this is the issue that now ultimately the people are facing this crisis. we are paying. Now why the professionals are talking about this tax issue, we are not against for the, that means there's a tax reduction from the paying, because we professional against what is the ultimate outcome of using these taxes. So now let's see about this immunoglobulin issue. $3 million scam happened. So these are the money that we have to pay, and the 100 million to the optical lens issue. So ultimately we have to pay these things. Even though these are the Indian credit line, UNICEF, whatever it is.
Just because the president changes the minister, that doesn't solve the problem.
That doesn't solve. The recently, you know, that the professor from the economic department in the Peradini exposed unborn fetus in the mothers in the recent Sri Lanka, they are detected for the 1.2 million. 1.2 million for the unborn fetus in the pregnant mothers because of this type of crisis.
But what I don't understand is, Dr. Anand, look at the statements that are being made by the ruling party members. One member comes and says when the electricity tariffs are high, don't use electricity. If you use electricity sparingly, the electricity bill won't be high. We know that.
Yeah.
That's simple logic. Then the Secretary General of the SLPP, Sagar Karyavasam, following the switch of the ministerial portfolio of Kelly Ramakwala, says we are against the switching of portfolios, but Minister Ramesh Patirana would do a better job. What's happening, Dr. Anand?
Yeah, I mean,
No, from where can we even laugh?
Yeah, I don't want to comment on this politicians' comment. I think it's a waste of time to comment on this not using electricity and reducing the bills and that sort of thing. He's an professor in economics, it seems. That's what we hear. Now, I think one good example is the thing we are talking about today and last several weeks, this immunoglobulin issue. Now, this is a masterly minded theft. It's a theft. It's a masterly minded theft. Why do I say so? Now, how did it get exposed? It got exposed because some patients who had this drug injection had reactions. When such reactions occur, the doctors are supposed to report it to a committee which look into these drug reactions. And in that committee, there's an immunologist who knows about the subject. And some of these patients are actually his clinic patients. And so he got inquisitive and he got down the drug which he has never seen before, and then he inquired. So that is how it surfaced. Now just imagine if these patients did not have any reactions, what would have happened? All these 20,000 odd vials would have bought, 1 billion rupees would have paid, people would have got commissions, and things would have, nobody would have known.
And this company is a company, as Niresh mentioned, a company based in Sidua.
Yes.
Is there an address to this company?
In the tender bid, there is.
Yes.
And there are some other things.
But
now,
nothing exists there.
Yeah.
Nothing exists there.
Nothing
There is
exists
an
there.
address.
There is an address,
Now-
but the padlock
So is it Dr. Anand, now when there is a procurement of this sort that takes place, as
Yeah.
Dr. Chamal mentioned, if since 2013 this company has not been given the green
Yes,
light.
yes.
Actually,
Isn't
it
there
was
a
exposed
technical
from the
committee?
Yeah.
Isn't there a technical committee to understand whether this company in Sri Lanka has the potential or the capability to do this product to the Sri Lankan market?
That is the question, because in their bid, they say they get the raw material and manufacturing.
No, but
they mention that in the bid.
Based on the reports, Dr. Chamal, that I have, even the mother company, when inquired by the officials in India, the Indian company has said that they don't even produce this.
And not only that, now there is in the procurement guidelines, there is a tender limit which the ministry can approve, and the limits above that has to go to the cabinet. Now if it goes to the cabinet, it goes to the finance ministry. And generally, I believe their officers give good sort of observations. That's what we have seen. From whether those are accepted by the cabinet or not is a different issue, but they give good recommendations. So what happened here is this tender is now it says the procurement guidelines says if it is GOSL government funds, if it is more than 500 million, it should go to the cabinet. If it is foreign funded, if it is more than 1,000 million, it should go to cabinet. Now this is valued at some 900 million.
Just below 1 billion.
1 billion. And they said it will be bought using the Indian credit line. So it is foreign funded. But then we understand it was paid by the treasury.
But Doctor, Indian credit line is a credit line.
Yeah.
We still have to pay for it.
Yeah, true. Exactly.
It's not a foreign grant.
Yes, but that there's a point there. I agree. But the thing is, now Indian credit line drugs, what we know is the drugs which are bought, that approved these tenders go to the Indian High Commission, then they go through that. There's a process, and that process did not happen in this instance, even though they said it is through the Indian credit line. So they use that not to go to the cabinet tender board.
No, but
so that is why I say it is it was
well planned out.
Very well planned out.
So, Dr. Ajit, now you don't have to have a rocket scientist to figure out that the minister, the secretary, and the NMRA head has to be suspended immediately.
Yes.
You don't have to have a rocket scientist to understand
Definitely not.
And Shamir, it's not just suspended. They should be prevented from boarding a plane.
Absolutely, and holding public office.
Yes, if they have earned a couple of 100 million rupees, they can simply pack their bags and leave.
Yeah.
And we know that once you leave Sri Lanka, our governments can never seem to get people back. There's a central bank governor who's living it up in Singapore for the past several years.
No, but the thing is, Dr. Ajit, you don't have to have a rocket scientist to understand that the NMRA head, the Secretary of the Ministry of Health, as well as the Minister of Health, has to be responsible and should be suspended. And an investigation has to be carried out immediately.
Definitely.
Isn't that the responsibility of Ramesh Patirana as the new Minister of Health?
Yeah, definitely. Now, let me explain this. Now, this particular immunoglobulin issue is only the tip of iceberg.
Is this a life-saving drug?
It's a tip of an iceberg. Yes. What I mean is that this is an instance where what is called a waiver of registration has been given, or supposed to be given, or not given by the NMRA. Now, this particular waiver of registration is a process where a drug comes into the country without going through the normal procedure of registration. So there has not been any kind of a proper evaluation of this particular drug. Now, can I explain in detail as how it happened? Now, I have a document here which is franked on the 3rd of October 2022, where a particular company called Isolas Biotech Pharma AG Limited has made a quotation for a quantity of 7,500 packs of this particular drug. Now, you have to note the name of this company. It says private. Right. This same company is giving another letter. 1 year later, this says Isola Biotech Pharma AG, signed by a proprietor. You are in the field of corporate, so you know the difference between a limited and a single proprietor. So the question is whether this company is totally a fake company. How can it have two names? The older one is a limited, second one is a sole proprietorship company. That is one. Now this particular quotation has been made, and after that we have a letter issued by the Secretary Health. This one, right? This one. Correct, thank you. On the 4th of January 2023, where this particular company has been granted permission to supply this drug for a period of 3 months, right? Under the Indian credit line. And there's an annexure to this, the letter, which says it is 22,500 vials. So initial quotation was for 7,500 vials, and the total cost of this amount is $2.9 million US, which is close to 926 billion. 26 million, close to 1 billion rupees. Now you can see in this letter, the top, the frank, important, urgent, right? Now you have to note when this letter was issued and these franks were made, no kind of a registration, either a registration or a waiver of registration has been given to this particular drug. And you can also see on the top, there's a frank dated 11 January 2022 and signed by a particular officer in the ministry. Please order immediately.
Now, Dr. Chaman said that was the Ministry of Secretary of the Health Ministry signed.
No, this was
No, this is it's signed by the Secretary.
It's like that. First, the Secretary has signed this
Signed the letter.
and then it has gone to the Medical Supply Division.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the Medical Supply Division has minuted there because of the Medical Supply Division has to order from the company to, because they are the one who is handling the order. So that is why I think they have mentioned to the company that the please supply, because this letter signed by Secretary and copy to the Additional Secretary Procurement, Director DDG and Director General Dr. Asela Gunawardana, DDG MSD, Director MSD, NMRA Chairman and the SPC Chairman. So officially the Secretary has copied this letter to the 6 office bearers in January this year. By knowing this company is not a registered company since 2013. And so the procurement process, TEC, everything.
And also, you have to note that this particular letter was signed on the 4th of January and the decision to order immediately this particular drug was made on the 11th of January and the so-called waiver of registration was issued only on the 17th of February.
Fake document.
So this is the document which they say they have in custody, which they say is a fake document. Even this fake document was signed or not signed on the 17th of February. It's very clear. This particular drug was ordered to brought into the country without any kind of document.
So, Dr. Ajit, are you trying to tell me that a 1 billion rupee procurement was not cross-checked by any of the ministry officials prior to being paid?
Being at least placing the order. At least placing the order. We don't know when the payment was made, at least before the order was placed.
So now who is saying that this is a forged document?
Now, very lately, when this issue came up, it's the chairman of the NMRA who issued a press statement on the 3rd of October saying that this is a fake document. So my argument is there was either a fake document or no document at all when the order was placed. So who is responsible?
And on the other hand, this was a time where NMRA will issue a waiver of registration for any purchase order made by the ministry, any decision on purchasing by the ministry, because they have taken that decision. They said if the ministry decides, we give the waiver of registration.
Can I
So they didn't even bother with the waiver of registration.
Correct. Yes.
No, the question is then if they are issuing waiver of registrations like that, why should one produce a forged letter?
Yes.
So anyway, they get the letter.
See,
So what is the need of
there's a
forging?
confusion now. Now there's a normal registration procedure which is laid down in this National Medicinal Regulatory Authority Act, a normal procedure, and there's a, now even through the normal procedure, if they say that there's no way that if somebody is arguing that if a particular drug is going through the normal procedure, that it would get delayed to be imported, there's a special clause where the minister can specify before this date you must give the registration or not. Understand, no? Through the normal procedure. Now, if the minister or the ministry wants a particular drug due to urgency,
Right.
then the minister can specify it and tell the NMRA give this particular registration before this particular date. Now, the way of registration is given for some other specific purpose. It is laid down in the 109th clause of that. The authority may grant permission in special circumstances such as to save a life, right? One particular person. Or supposing a person is dying, there's a drug that has to be given to that particular person. So you can use this clause to bring a drug to be given to that particular person to save that life, a life, right? To control an outbreak of an infection, epidemic situation. Now, corona, you can say, is an epidemic situation, or an epidemic or any other national emergency or for national security to import and supply a particular medicine. Now, under which clause
Has this been covered?
has been covered? I mean, there's a clear violation of the
the act
regulations of the act, and there's a, as you say, this is a criminal offence. It is specified in that. It says every person who contravenes any of the provisions of this act or any regulation made thereunder shall be guilty of an offence and shall on conviction be liable where the nature of the offence involves injury to health of the public, to a fine not exceeding 200,000 rupees or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years, or to both such fine and imprisonment.
So now this would
is a
be
criminal offence.
This would be a good opportunity for the Minister of Justice to prove that his Anti-Corruption Act is in action. At
Yes.
least he can prove a point.
Yeah, that's
By
why I
taking
mentioned
action.
because already all the documents are very clear forensic document. They all have proven, and even NMRA chairman, the Professor Jayaratna,
S.K.
has
Jayaratna.
accepted. And actually he mentioned, he showed two very funny press release. One is even when we exposed there's quality failed drugs, initially minister rejected. There's no quality failed drugs, but unfortunately, he issued a press release accepted there are quality failed drugs in 5 instances in the cephaloxime, then for the cephalosporin issue, and for the as a dialysis catheter like that. 5 instances he mentioned. Yes, even the aspirin, quoted aspirin, he mentioned the aspirin produced in Sri Lanka does not carry aspirin to the methyl salicylate acids in that aspirin tablets. So like
Dr.
that, there.
Professor Indika, don't you think the real problem here is Keli Ramukwala is not aware what has to be the emergency medicines that need to be purchased. So don't you think the Minister of Health himself should be a doctor by profession who has a technical knowledge, so he would know that the bureaucrats around him won't be taking him circles?
First, your statement that the minister was unaware, probably it's very unlikely because from the beginning, many professional organizations, including SLMA and several trade unions, everyone basically pointed out that there is no need to bypass the regular processes because now we are very much aware, it was very clearly explained what are the checks and balances that are there, that were there in the system. From procurement to distribution, there are several checks and balances to make sure regarding the authority of the company and the registration and the quality. So all these aspects, there are several checks and balances. Even if one step fails, still there would be other checks and balances. So why, when so many experts were telling that there's absolutely no need to go for a way of registration or basically to open the floodgates, and that would lead to this kind of situation, even then, in spite of all this resistance or everyone pointing out, still the minister and the authorities went ahead with this decision. When it was pointed out that, I mean, experts like Dr. Ananda Vijay Vikrama and several others pointed out there's no need for way of registration. You can basically have there are enough provisions within the checks and balances. There are enough provisions if you want emergency purchases, and that could be done. So what has happened is deliberately opening the floodgates, and once that is done, there is no point of saying that we are not responsible, because once you open the floodgates, even after people pointing out that this can happen, then they are responsible actually. So that is what has happened. So you can't say that we don't know who has put our signature or the seal or whatever, because once you have removed that checks and balances, obviously
absolve himself
obviously you know
wrong.
that it can be manipulated. It's obvious, because once the balances are removed. So I mean, many of us actually raise that question: is it just a system failure, or is it actually a deliberate, purposeful sabotage of the system?
So Professor, now if you look at the past, in 2021 we were all aware that the NMRA database was deleted. Whether it was done accidentally or whether it was done purposely, we don't know yet, because there's a court case on that pending at the moment. Do you think that also had contributed to the problems in the health crisis at present?
Very much. I mean, that's what we are trying to say. It's multifactorial. I mean, you can't pinpoint at single point. I mean, in a health system like Sri Lanka, which has been well established, for it to have a crisis situation, it has to fail in many situations. So all these areas, so that would involve administration, purchasing, procurement, decision making, policy making, all these areas need to be affected, and that cannot happen accidentally. It cannot happen accidentally.
So clearly there isn't even one person with an ounce of integrity and honesty among all these dozens to whom these documents have been copied.
Yes, I mean, the concerning factor is these points have been raised many times. From 2022, I suppose. In 2022, during the economic crisis, Sri Lanka Medical Association issued a statement, and several others also issued statements. So this has been pointed out.
So, as Dr. Anand said, this is the worst ever.
Of course, yes.
The health sector in Sri Lanka has ever been.
Yes, definitely, because we had a 30-year war. But this was not.
This is why Dr. Tenuan, I'm really angry with the GMOA, not because of anything else. If you all did your job, at least for a certain extent, this wouldn't have happened.
I think if I may answer, because he is representing GMOA and I am not representing, it is not on the GMOA.
Dr. Tenuan has been on the show before.
I know.
He very much can.
He's interested in such questions.
But
very much
can answer.
Yeah. He's in a way of prepping.
I may say it is not. It is the GMOA and many other Sri Lanka Medical Association, several other professional associations which raise the voice and expose these things to the
Dr. Anand Vijay, my point is not about the SLMA.
Yeah. No.
Now,
even the GMOA.
You all were not there when the fertilizer crisis happened. No. GMOA former president was
his favorite question.
Yeah, he was behind the fertilizer issue as well. I'm telling you this, Dr. Tenuan. This year, let's take a look at the tea production in the country. Is at an all-time low because of the fact that in 2021 that illogical move was made, and the GMOA was behind that.
Let me explain you about this.
Yeah, but let's forget about that. But at least
the point.
But as matters of this sort, when it happens, right? Matters of this sort, this nature, this seriousness happens. Where is the GMOA? I don't see all I don't see you all protesting. I don't see you all demanding the resignation of the minister. I don't see you all demanding the resignation of the Secretary to the Ministry of Health. I don't see the
no, I don't agree with you, Shamir. I don't agree with you because there are a number of health sector trade unions. So if you go through the media briefings for last 3 months, we are the trade union, and I want to talk about Dr. Chamal also. He was also very vocal about these things. And we are the trade union that spoke about this corruption from the start. And without any hesitation, there was any history in Sri Lanka that more than 2,000, 3,000 doctors came to Colombo just to protest against this health crisis. This is the first time that we held something like that. And if you can point me out any other protest like that was the eye opener. And I just want to add on to that. And talking about this Isolase Pharma company, they have now found out that they have been importing another anti-cancer drug, rituximab. That is also they are the company that has been imported to Sri Lanka. It has been withheld from the system now. And the other thing is, if the health authorities are telling that they don't know about this procedure anything, if the company is asking for GMP certificate since 2013, if the authorities has not granted that certificate to them, why they have allowed this critical vital drug that is given to neurological patients and pediatric patients especially, the immunoglobulin, to manufacture in this country where they don't have facility even to produce a paracetamol tablet.
So, Dr. Denwan, on that note, will you all as the GMOA be demanding the prosecution and the arrest of all those involved in this entire, this terrible, I don't want to call it a scam, it's murder, a life-saving drug, 22,500 vials, 22,000 patients, life-saving drug, and a mafia got together, dozens of people, including the top people in many medical institutions. Are you all going to demand prosecution and jail time for this?
Definitely. GMO will be the first to do that, because the new health minister assumed duty about 2-3 days back, and we have requested an early discussion with him to discuss about this health crisis and to point out what to do and what are the way forward to come out of this problem.
No,
Why hasn't he met you yet?
No, he was assuming duty 2 days back.
Only yesterday, but then yesterday evening itself he should have met you.
No, we have sent them a courtesy call letter and we have sent them an agenda.
But this is no time for courtesies.
No,
this is life-saving, life-threatening issue.
It's true, but it will take at least 2-3 days for someone to grant an appointment. Because
not at all.
He has called for a meeting yesterday evening with the health ministry officials to talk about this.
The point is, just as the GMOA in the last 5 to 6 years were very much interested about increasing the salaries of the doctors, I hope and pray that you all act on this as well, as much as you all were interested about your personal gains. Dr. Ajit, you were also a vice president of the GMOA a long time back. Which year was that?
Actually, I was the General Secretary of the GMOA from 1995 to 1997, 3 years. Then I was the Vice President from 2000 to 2002. I would quote 2 instances where we took direct action on this type of issues. One was in 1995 when then Health Minister, Mr. Fauci, imported some substandard saline. It was a very well known issue and insisted the then CDDA director, Dr. Ajit Mendis. CDDA was the President Institute of the NMRA, Cosmetic Devices and Drugs Authority, and the then director was Dr. Ajit Mendis, who later became the Director General. He refused to give registration to this drug and he was immediately transferred by the minister. GMOA immediately struck work, and that was the instance where for the first time in the history AMS and GMOA got together and struck work. And we had a crisis in our association. I was the assistant secretary at that time, and the secretary resigned, saying this is a terrorist type of a strike. But we pre-warned, we said immediately replace the director,
Yes.
immediately send him to the substantive board, and
you also said action has to be taken.
yes, drastic action. Within
But
24 hours,
it's for
he
the
was
public
reinstated.
benefit.
He was reinstated. And there was inquiry on this issue, particular issue, and it was found this particular saline was substandard. And this drug was immediately withdrawn from hospitals. Right? And it
But
became
don't you think
a-
such action has to be taken by the
that
GMO
such
even
action
now?
has to be taken by responsible trade unions. That is one. Number two, in 1997, SPC imported some substandard vaccines from again an institute in India, and we pre-warned and said, because we had our members in Family Health Bureau, they said that the packs were broken and the cold chain was not maintained and the quality of these particular vaccines were not good. And we had an outbreak of measles.
It's 1997, end of 1997.
1997. Right? Sorry, whooping cough. Whooping cough. We had an outbreak of whooping cough. And at that instance, also, GMOA said the SPC has to be taken into task for importing such a vaccine, and the vaccine was withdrawn from the market. And there was inquiry, and it was found what we said was correct. Right? So I think it's the responsibility of the trade unions to act not only about their own issues, but act on behalf of patients as well. So that is a responsibility.
It has not been happening for the last 5 years.
I mean, it's up to you to take a decision. It's a democratic organization, but I want to remind the history of GMO and
So
remind
I want to
about the responsibilities of.
So I want to give the 5 panelists, all of you, doctors by profession. So I want to give all 5 of you an opportunity to wrap up, because we have to finish the show at 11 p.m. unfortunately. So I want to give you 2 minutes each as to what the way forward is now, and what advice do you have for the new minister in charge. So let's start off with Professor Indiga.
Yeah, yes, thank you. So I think these issues that were raised are very pertinent. I think in a way it's even though this immunoglobulin issue was unfortunate, in a way it was very fortunate that it was brought up, and that has really opened up many eyes and opened up the issue, and many issues that has been underlined. One thing we should remember is, true, all these problems are there, but this is an issue that has to be addressed holistically. That's to be addressed holistically. Why I am telling is, true that all these issues were there, all these malpractices, corruption were there, but without us knowing, many problems that were there that were not highlighted. I would say, may not be as dramatic as this. For example, I would say when it comes to certain drugs, certain life-saving drugs, like maybe ones that you give for heart attacks, so on and so forth, there's a monopoly. The system is there, the tender processes are there, but always one company comes up. So how does it happen? And also drug prices. Now people are very worried about drug prices nowadays. Now, do we know that still we don't have a proper pricing policy? Generally, the drug prices were based on CIF price previously, but when the pricing was done, you have to depend on the price that is quoted by the importer, because there is no list regarding, no regular format regarding CIF price, because it can change. Nowadays, fortunately, it has been changed to the international pricing. Still, Sri Lanka is the country that has the highest markup for medicinal drugs. Markup up to 60%. Nowhere in this world has this markup. Even after NMRA has decided to reduce this markup, then the pharmaceutical industry has gone to courts. So now you can see what are the things that has been happening regularly. Now we are worried about these incidents which are fine, but there has been so many issues. So the same thing that I have mentioned previously, the same issues that has led to this country's crisis, the corruption, lack of efficiency, nepotism, favoritism, cronyism, everything has been there. If we have to answer these problems, we have to look at in a very holistic way. So the way to go is actually there should be absolute accountability, transparency, and also proper management, and also meritocracy. So I hope the new minister will take necessary steps, but I mean, unfortunately he has his work cut out at the moment, because this problem is so deep-rooted, really deep-rooted. So I mean, because for the benefit of the health system, we wish him well, and we wish him the courage and the braveness to clean up the system.
Thank you very much, Professor Indika. Dr. Ajit?
You are asking about the advice we can give to the health minister. I think the best advice I could give him is that he has to remember health ministry is not only a drug procurement agency. There are many other aspects to health of the country. Now currently the country is facing a severe food crisis. Malnutrition is coming up from everywhere, and this is one of the most important areas the health minister has to concentrate as to how to avoid malnutrition among children, and also how to ensure food security. Secondly, in addition to providing safe and quality drugs in sufficient numbers, he also has to remember that there are many other services in the health sector which has to be organized or reorganized. Now, health employees are leaving the country in large numbers, and certain stations are lacking staff, consultants, medical doctors. So probably he has to do some kind of a redistribution of the workforce. And maybe after looking at the overall picture, he may have to expand certain institutions, close down certain institutions based on the manpower of this country. That is one. Secondly, there are regulatory processes. Not only regulatory processes, there are processes in which the proper distribution of medicines are ensured. There is a computer-based system which is already installed but underutilized or malutilized in the ministry. So that has to be functioned immediately to ensure that drugs are available in all institutions.
Right. Thank you very
These are
much.
the important.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ajit. Dr. Chaman?
Yeah. Regarding the immunoglobulin issue and the health crisis, I think the number one is that the president or the high officers should take immediate actions to resign and produce these officers to the legal department, because it's not happening, as I mentioned, from the last 1.5 years period. Repeatedly this type of corruptions happen, and these are the well documented white collar robberies. And as the president is dreaming to build a smart country, my question is how the country might be smart with this type of smart robberies happening in the country. The country is getting smart in the robbery. So I think I know that this type of, I will mention that when we are doing this type of program, President Media Unit is very well observing this type of programs. So I have enough experience. They are calling explanation of describing the issues, but unfortunately they are not taking any actions or highlighting precedents about the fact and figures that we are facing. I have one nice example before this one, as we are in a health crisis. One is the shortage, and we all mentioning even the new health minister also yesterday briefing that this health crisis is mainly due to the economic crisis. But Dr. Ajit and Professor Indika and also Dr. Ananda very clearly mentioned this is not totally dependent on the economic crisis, because we have more than the normal allocations. Even the other ministries give 1 to 2% to the health. And we are getting Indian Credit Line, UNICEF, WHO and Asian Development Bank Fund. So we have enough funds flowing through the health system, and as you mentioned, now it's become the Ministry of Health is not a ministry, it's like a share market now. And I mentioned this one nice example. This is the letter issued by the Maligavatta, the director Maligavatta Kidney Hospital, mentioning when we don't have the routing supply, we have to go for the emergency or the local purchase. Let's see one drug, when we get the normal supply, it's a 13 rupees, and when we go for get the higher purchase, local purchase, it's 175 rupees. So the price hijack is 1,300 rupees. Now problem is that how the ministry is allowing or the assigning check to give this 1,300 rupees by mentioning we don't have money. Right? The funny thing is that when he exposed this critical analysis report to the Director General Health Service, he started inquiry about this director. Right? There's an inquiry now going against this Dr. Charles Nogavela to expose and analyzing this.
Right.
The happening this type of the financial mismanagement happen. He showed very clear to Director General Health Service the price difference is 1,300 only he used the most drug use in the kidney hospital Maligawat. Now there's an ongoing inquiry about this director to prepare this analysis. But what has happened to all the high officers from Secretary, DG, Additional Secretary, Procurement, Additional Secretary, Medical Supply. So this the US dollars 3 million, this is the exposed one. Right? As Dr. Tenuwan mentioned, the same company brought the cancer drugs to this type of forged document, rituximab, to the country, and it is using up to this issue in the cancer hospital. The same company, same route. The other thing is the immunoglobulin issue. Now the custom said this drug has not come to the custom, not to the airport, not to the routing ships. So that is why the ultimately former minister said this might be a solution like saline and produced in the country somewhere. So this is the actually we expose whole iceberg in the country, the crisis of the health system, totally mismanagement, bad mismanagement at the management and administrative level failure.
Thank you very much.
So the president, if president is not taking, it's up to the public.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shamal. Dr. Ananda?
Yeah, thank you. I think we have, as others mentioned, there are many problems in the health sector and it's in a real crisis. Today we were discussing mainly about the immunoglobulin issue, but it's not only the immunoglobulin, there are many other drugs, lot of other drugs which are brought like this under waiver of registration of uncertain quality without proper evaluation. And then not only that, the problems about the manpower, not having adequate manpower, people are leaving the country from the health sector and also from other sectors. And then the nutrition issue, there are so many issues in the health sector. And this needs to be addressed immediately and urgently. And I personally believe, and I try to be hopeful, as doctors we always try to be hopeful when we treat patients. So similarly we are hopeful here with the new minister, especially he being a doctor. I believe he understands the plight of patients, the poor people, and therefore I believe he will take necessary actions. However, it will be difficult for him because for the last couple of years, at least for the last 2 years, the system was dominated by few corrupted individuals. There are so many good individuals, administrators and other doctors in the Ministry of Health. But unfortunately, the things are dominated by a group of small group of corrupted individuals in the NMRA and the Ministry of Health and so on. So with this, it will be a difficult task for the new Minister of Health, but I believe he will have the necessary strength and the courage to do the correct things and to save the free health system for our country and for the future generations.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ananda. Dr. Tenuwan?
Yeah, first of all, regarding the accusation made to GMO, I would like to mention that details regarding all these facts we have been providing to Health Ministry, officials, the President, up to the President we have been providing continuously. As a result only, the public pressure also increased. We have been giving media reports, press releases and everything that ultimately resulted in the change of the face of the ministry. But I should say that changing only the minister will not be a solution, because that network that we have been talking about for the last 2.5 hours, it still remains as it is. So we have to find out this network and we have to get rid of this network to come to a solution. And if you go to the MSD website, there are 96 drugs that has quality failures. So if as a trade union, if you start to have trade union measures for each and every drug, ultimately the general public will suffer again. So GMO, as a very responsible trade union, we are looking at all the aspects before going into these trade union measures. But continuously we have been pressurizing on this matter. And regarding the way forward, I would like to say that the Auditor General's report that has been published in 2022 May regarding the drug shortage and quality failure clearly gives you about 14 to 15 recommendations what to follow. So if the health authorities, if the new health minister can make the structural changes that is required and can take the disciplinary action that is to be needed and can follow only these 16 recommendations, I think we can come out of this situation for some extent. So that now the emergency purchase has become a routine practice. What they do is they make a drug to be short of stock and they go for emergency purchase, and then all these problems can happen. And they clearly recommend that 3 months stock should be available there. And the proper liaison and coordination should be there among the 5 main bodies in the health ministry. And they say a simple information system that is to be established. That we have a lot of IT experts. It is a simple matter of having a system that have access to all these bodies. So you know that which drug is short in 3 months' time. So I wish that the new health minister will take up these matters and GMO will continuously pressurize until these things come out of the tent.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tenwan. Thank you very much, Professor Indika Karunatilaka, Dr. Ajit Amar Singh, Dr. Chamal Sanjeeva, Dr. Anand Vijay Vikrama, as well as Dr. Tenwan Vikramasinghe. Dr. Tenwan, I'll continue to put pressure on the GMOA to get your act together as long as you come on the show every single time. So I'll continue to do so.
That implies how valuable GMO is.
GMOA is, of course. Thank you very much, Nilesh Lethambe, Consultant English News Director at Newsfirst. I just hope the Minister of Health now, Ramesh Patirana, he would get his act together, not as the Minister of Plantation Industries when the fertilizer issue happened. The Minister did not do nothing. I hope he will take the courage now to ensure that the Sri Lankan health sector is available and protected, as Dr. Anand said, not only for the generation now, but also for the future generations. I leave it with a quote, as I always do. Power is always dangerous. Power attracts the worst and the corrupt. Take care and good night.